So you're interested in learning everything there is to know about Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Virginia. Well, thankfully, you've come to the right place. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Ascend Finance YouTube channel, where we help folks understand the cost and qualification for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Virginia. We actually built a free Chapter 7 calculator so you can estimate cost, qualification, and the pros and cons of filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Virginia. Whether you live in a smaller town or even one of those larger cities, the Chapter 7 calculator will give you specific results based on your zip code. Now today, I'm going to go through a few things. First, I'm going to cover the cost to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Virginia. And then second, I'll explain kind of how the qualification process works and how to actually qualify for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Virginia. Third, I'm going to talk about assets, how those are impacted in the Chapter 7 and whether they're protected if you file Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Virginia. And then fourth, should you file Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Virginia? Now, all of those things said, this is all going to be for informational purposes only, and this video should not be construed as legal advice. As I'm sure you're trying to research as much as you can right now, let's just make this short and sweet by getting right into the first thing: how much it costs to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Virginia. When it comes to filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy, there are several factors an attorney may consider in estimating a total all-in estimate to file. To clarify though, here's what an attorney actually may look at when they're trying to determine how much they may charge someone. So first, they may look at the complexity of the case. Second, the urgency for that person to file. Third, the years of experience for that attorney. Fourth, the actual cash flow of the client. So sometimes attorneys may be a little bit more flexible if they don't have as much money to pay or the income's lower. And then five, location. So I kind of want to further go into each one real quick so we can kind of explain them. So first, complexity of the case, right? So this generally is going to refer to whether or not you have any assets you protected when you file. So if the client ends up having assets, it may take the attorney longer to kind of get the petition ready. So for urgency to file, whether you may have to file bankruptcy within a few days or months, an attorney may charge more or less depending on how much time they have to get it ready. And then attorney's years of experience, right? So this is going to be a little bit more straightforward. So if an attorney's been filing bankruptcies for more than 10 years versus someone that just started a year ago, they may actually be able to charge a bit more, but it really depends. And then fourth, the cash flow of the individual filing. So sometimes they may charge a smaller fee as a courtesy. Still, the average fee is usually charged regardless of the client's cash flow. Now, finally, the location. So this is actually more relative state versus state, as actually some states may have an average Chapter 7 fee of, let's say, $2,000 versus another state with an average of $1,200. Okay, so before I move on to the next part about kind of qualifying for a Chapter 7, if you actually want to have an estimate for the total all-in cost, you can take our free Chapter 7 calculator below. You don't even have to add an email address to see the results. The idea is it gives you the cost, pros and cons, and whether you actually may qualify for a Chapter 7. Keep in mind, if you don't want to add any contact info, you can just select none of the above at the end, and you don't even have to add an email address. All right, so now let's dive in how to actually qualify for a Chapter 7. So there's going to be three main factors to understand when determining your ability to file Chapter 7: income, expenses, assets. So those are going to be the three things I want you to remember when trying to understand qualification. So each state is going to have most likely an income limit set for your household size. So what that's going to be considered is the means test income limit. I'll actually put the income limit for the state on the screen, but keep in mind that the means test updates every so often. So that being said, taking our free calculator that's actually in the description can be helpful, as it's actually going to be most up to date with the means test data for estimating your qualification for Chapter 7. Alrighty, so now let's talk about expenses, as the means test has a couple of parts. The first part of the means test is mainly considering your gross income versus the income limit for the household size. Now, the second part generally considers your disposable income. Sometimes individuals may fail the first part of the means test by making too much money, but sometimes pass the second part because the court finds they may not actually have enough disposable income. And so when that's the case, you may find that you can qualify for a 7 even though you make more than the income limit. Now, finally, let's talk about how assets are actually really important to the Chapter 7 decision-making process. So although having assets may not impact your qualification, it may actually impact your decision to file. Almost every state has its own exemptions that filers can use. So they may want to utilize that to protect their assets from being liquidated. Now, the main assets I'd say that individuals are mainly concerned about are their home, or their cars. So let me kind of explain how that looks like it. Now, before I dive deeper into that and how they're all treated, I just wanted to say, like, if the video has ended up being helpful, or if you think it could be, a game changer for someone you know, let's light up that like button below. It seems that YouTube tends to rank videos with more likes, and we like to think that our video can help those dealing with this kind of stressful topic. So let's make it go viral and create a positive impact. Now that we've covered how assets may impact, Chapter 7 from a higher level, let's dive into it and get more granular and explain how that all works. So what I'll do is I'll provide an example here in a second, but also help you with what I'll call the 2 E's, okay? So the first E is equity, the second E is exemption. And those 2 E's, equity and exemptions, are gonna be what's helpful for you to know and help you understand the risk of you losing an asset. Now, one of the most common assets folks are worried about losing is their home. So I'm gonna use that in this example. Now, at the time of the video, I believe the homestead exemption in Virginia is around $5,000 for single folks who are under 65 years old. I'll put a link in the description regardless with an article that has the most up-to-date and detailed information on the homestead exemption in Virginia, but we'll utilize that number for this example. So let's say you have less than the estimated homestead exemption of $5,000. Well, it actually may be protected if you file Chapter 7 then. On the other hand, let's say you have $80,000 total in equity, then it actually may be at risk of being sold during the process. But let's say, you're not sure and you're like, I have more equity than the state exemption, but I don't want to lose my home. What do I do? Well, fortunately, it will be your decision, but at the same time, there may be other options to consider. And we've made tons of videos on all the alternatives to bankruptcy. So if you don't have time to watch those though, you can just take our general debt calculator. That'll just help you understand the alternative to bankruptcy, the cost, duration, and pros and cons. Okay, moving on to should you file Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Virginia? What I'll tell you this is everyone's situation is unique and it's ultimately up to you. But if you're feeling like you're either A, you have too much equity in your home and or assets in general and you're worried you lose them, or B, you're just not sure what to do and whether Chapter 7 is right for you, well, you can just take our Chapter 7 calculator linked in the description that'll estimate the cost and qualification for Virginia. That said, I get it. If you don't have a lot of time and you're not sure if you have the time to fill out a calculator, you're welcome just to call us directly at 833-272-3631, and we'll try to answer all your questions over the phone, and we can even help you understand the risk of you losing assets based on the exemptions, Chapter 7 qualifications, pros and cons, and even alternative options, so that you just feel like you can make the most informed decision. Now, I appreciate you watching this video, and ultimately I hope you're able to get out of debt cheaper, easier, and faster. Take care.